Okay, today we're working with Access. Access is a database program that you would use like to do inventory or maybe to keep track of an address book, which is what we're going to make today. So I'm going to click on the starter file and open it up. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and enable content and then save this. So I'm going to do a file. I'm going to do a save as. I want to save it as an Access database. Save as. And now I want to go ahead and put it in my documents in my computer class so I can find it to turn it in. And what we're going to call this is an Access 1, Project 1. And I'm just going to make it my last name. Say save. And now I'm going to enable content. So now I have my address book. Let's go ahead and make this over a little bit. Here's my objects. So what I need to do first is create a table. I can't put any information in without a table. So I'm going to create a table, and it automatically comes up in data sheet view. I want this to come up in design view. So down here at the bottom right, there's a design view button. So I'm going to click on design view. And the first thing it wants me to do is name the table. It's not going to even go to design view without a table name. So my table name is family or address book. I'm going to say OK. Now I'm ready to enter in information. So the first is the ID number, and that is your unique identifier. Every record has to have a unique identifier. So you can set Access to either give you a unique identifier or you can put your own in. We're going to be putting our own in for this data sheet view. So we have family name, so FN number, and we're going to have it to be short text. And instead of being 255 down here, we're going to change this to 2 as far as our field size goes. Then in our description or our notes area, we're going to say this is a unique identifier of family. Our next field name is last name. And again, it's short text. We're going to change this field size to 20. And we don't have any description for this one. Then we're going to go first name, short text, and again, make this 20. And go ahead and look at your instruction sheet and enter in the rest of the information. Okay, after you have everything entered in correctly, now we need to save our file. So we're going to come up here to the save icon, and then we're going to come back down here and we're going to come back to datasheet view. In datasheet view, this is where we can add information. You cannot add information in design view. You can only add it in the datasheet view. So here in the datasheet view, we are going to add 5 names to our table. So you can enter in either real name, real information if you want to, or you can make up some information. But right now what you need to do is enter in 5 different names. Okay, after you have all of them entered, hopefully you remember to make some of them in Kansas, you can look at your data. And one thing that's really neat about Access is you don't have to keep saving stuff. It automatically saves it for you, or it will remind you to save things. So we're going to close this table out. So to do that, we're going to come up here to this little X on the address book tab, and that's going to close it out. Okay, we have our address book done, and now we're ready to do our query. A query is just a fancy name for question. So we're going to come up here to create. And we're going to do Query Wizard. We're going to do a simple query, say OK. And we're going to use our address book. And what we want in our simple query is our last name, our city, our state, and our zip. And then we're going to say next. We're just going to leave it address book query and say finish. So you can see here is our query with all of our information. Now we want to create another query, but we want to use criteria for this query. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our address book query, and we're going to come down here in the right hand corner and change it to design view. And here under state, we only want to show those people that live in Kansas. So we're in the criteria line. We're going to type in KS for Kansas and hit enter. So criteria Kansas. Now if we come back up here to the query tools design, and if we run this query, now you can see the only people that are going to show in our query are from Kansas. Now I want to save this query. So I need to go to File and do Save As. I want to save object. I'm going to hit Save As again over here. And now I want to name this Family in Kansas and say OK. So now I can close this query. So I have address book, address query, and family in Kansas query. The next thing we're going to do is create a form. We want it easy to enter information into our query. So we're going to select address book. We're not going to open it, just select it. Come up to create, and we're going to create a form. So you can see our form, it has all the fields. Now we can't enter any information in yet because we're still in design view. So the first thing we need to do is save this. So we're going to go to File, Save As. We're going to save as object and hit Save As again. And this time this is our address book form. And say OK. Come back down here to the bottom and take it back to form view. Now if we come down to the bottom, we can see we have records 1 of 5. This little one right here, we can actually add a new blank record. So if I add another record in here, and I'm going to just make up some information. As soon as I get and enter the zip and hit the enter key, I've entered another data. So I can close this address book form. If I come back to this family in Kansas and I double click on it to run it, you can see now that new one that I just entered in the form is now showing in my query, and it would also show in the address book. So I'm going to close this. Now we're ready to create a report. So we're going to come back up here and select address book for the report. We're going to come up here to create and come over here to report. And here is our address book report. Now you can see it actually is on 2 pages. It's page 1 of 1 here. Let's see. It might just be on 1 page. We can check that out by printing it. So if we come back up here to File and Print, we just want Print Preview. And it is going to come, going to miss some information in here. So we can go back in and we can make some changes. I'm going to close Print Preview. I'm going to come down here to Design View. Now the design view in the report is really kind of overwhelming. What we're going to do is we're going to make each section smaller. So here under last name, if I click under the detail, and I come over here and get the two-headed arrow, I can make it smaller. I can do the same thing with first name. Click there, double-headed arrow, make it a little smaller. Do the same thing with street and with city. And also with state and zip. Now I can come down here and go back to print preview, and now you can see everything is fitting on one page. And I could go back in and I could do a little bit more here. But what's really cool about this is that it already formats it and it already puts the date on there for you, so you don't have to wonder, when did I run that report? It's going to tell you right there. So we want to save this. So we're going to go File and do a Save As. And we want to save this object. We're going to do Save As. This is our address book report. Say OK. And then we can close this out. And you can see in our database, you should have a table, 2 queries, a form, and an address book. Now you're ready to save this, and you want to close Access. Say yes, don't need the clipboard. And now you're ready to come back in here to Blackboard and submit it for grading.